Hello, and welcome to the Never Ending Experiment. This is Kim Anderson. This is episode 13. I decided this episode to just go over the digital era. I was thinking about talking just about why I'm doing a podcast, but I think it's good to keep it broad. Lately, I've just been kind of overwhelmed by all of the changes online, technological changes, app changes, social media changes, AI. It's just kind of been overwhelming, and it's pretty tough to start a podcast at this time. Podcasts have been around for a while, and I used to listen to them all the time, I would say in the early 2000s, early 2010s, and I kind of dropped off, and I think it's because I used to do a lot of painting, and so I would paint and listen to podcasts at the same time. So it was a little weird for me to start a podcast when I don't actually listen to them that much anymore. I just want to say I really appreciate the people that are listening. I hope that I can get the word out a little bit more. But it's been tough, and I think it's been tough because of these changes that have happened on social media. It's tough, I do miss tangible media so much. I really have not adapted well to the digital age, and it really has taken over. It can be depressing sometimes when you are someone like me who doesn't approve of a lot of the changes that have happened and they just get shoved through and there's not much you can do about it. But I think what we're seeing happening now in the digital age is that it really has not fulfilled the promises that its promoters were promising in the last era. It really hasn't improved. I think we reached a point maybe 10 years ago where, for a while it was like speed and sharp images were kind of what we were going for. The ability to have different fonts and colors. I was watching this show, Northern Exposure. That was made in the 90s. And wow, it doesn't seem that long ago until a computer shows up in the show and it's like, oh my goodness. It seems like it's even from an older era. Like, we forgot how basic computers were back in the 90s. I had friends that got on the internet pretty early, and you would really just sit there and watch a photograph download slowly. Sometimes for a few minutes it would take to download anything. It was so slow, and then you'd have dial-up, which was also slow. But I feel like we're kind of going back to that really decrepit version of the internet. Like, it was so basic and then it kind of improved in quality, at least as far as imagery goes. I don't even know how to get into the content, though. That's another story. But I'm feeling very disappointed in the social media changes. I know over the last couple days I've just kind of been mind blown that we are relying so much on this technology that is constantly changing, and those changes are mostly making it worse. We're really seeing the downfall of, I don't even just call it capitalism, but it really is profit motivation. Because the profit motivation is such that you need to always be making more and more money. And of course, the irony being, if you make a really good product, people will buy it once and never buy it again because it's a good product and it will last their whole lives. And then the person that made it will no longer make any money. So the motivation for growth and for profit, I think, is really, really breaking down the internet. And it's making a lot of the programs that may have been functional in the past no longer function. So just yesterday, I had a notification on Facebook that I had a notification on Instagram, and I checked Instagram and the notification said that I have notifications on Facebook. What? So it's so bizarre. Like, over the last months, I think I just trying to get my head around it. What is going on and why everything is falling apart? It's a bit frightening, because of how reliant everyone is on social media now. I just glanced at an article from Vox about how all artists are expected to be really active on social media. But how can you be active on social media if the platforms are falling apart. Like they literally don't work anymore and they're so full of errors and bugs and you're not able to get through to the people. I know some of the people closest to me, I haven't been able to see their posts, and then you decide to look up one thing that you haven't seen in a while and suddenly you get that post first thing every single day. It just doesn't make any sense. Just today I got a notification on Facebook that somebody posted a comment on somebody else's post that I don't follow and I've never heard of either of these people before. And it wasn't even an important comment and it wasn't even an important post. But I've never seen these people before. I don't follow them. So that brings us back to remember when Facebook, when they first started doing changes on Facebook, you were always seeing these images of friends, people that you don't know, and seeing all their personal photos and wedding photos and such. And you're like, I've never seen these people. And it's kind of going back to that. So things are getting worse. The digital era is getting worse. And I think it's having a massive psychological impact on people that I don't know how we can really get our heads around because it's so profound. It's so profound to have a large number of people insist that you rely on technologies that don't work, and they're working less and less and less. Now, just to go back a little bit about the internet. So, what I feel is one of the biggest problems with the internet, I mentioned the profit motivation, but it's more than that. So, the internet is, the power of multiple computers connected to each other that are able to be more powerful as a group than as a single computer. So that's just sort of the basis of the internet. It started, I believe, in the military. And they have things like intranet, which is sort of the internets for smaller groups, which they used to have in a lot of companies. So only people in that company and only people with those computers in that company will be able to access it. But of course, the internet, the World Wide Web, is computers all over the world that are connected. Now, I think the biggest problem with the internet is when they decided to implement privacy. Privacy and the internet are completely opposite. The internet is not made for privacy. It's the opposite of private. If you have a bunch of different computers connected to each other, that's supposed to have a cumulatively powerful impact. And how can you build walls on that without making the whole thing fall apart? Well, that's exactly what's happened. So you can't complain like why things aren't private online because they're not meant to be private. Because that's not what the internet is for. That's not what it's built for. That's not what it's good at. And it will never be good at that. If you want privacy for your data or for whatever you're doing, then you need it completely disconnected from everyone else. A safe doesn't have secret passageways connected to other safes. That doesn't make it safer. That makes it less safe. The whole point of a safe is that it's locked and then it's got thick walls on every side and it's got a secret code that only one person or a small group of people knows. So pretending that you can have a safe like privacy on a system that is built on being connected just doesn't make any sense. The attempt to divide connectivity, which doesn't work, and keep things private when it's basically a public space. Part of it, it's hackers, right? It's the fact that people that know code and people, computer programmers are usually not politicians. So we have politicians that get ahead by being popular. They usually have some social skills that, some charm or something that pushes them ahead. And that doesn't mean that they're any good at technical things, that they don't know much about technology. They don't really know how, for example, the internet works. So you have people that don't know how it works that are making laws that are going to control the internet. So we have this random bunch of laws that don't really work. We've got a whole bunch of independent programmers and hackers that don't want that power system and that don't want privacy and that just makes sense. Like you can't demand something from a system that is built to do the opposite of what you want it to do. So that's another problem is that we have the legal system and government systems that are basically ignorant about the technologies that they're trying to govern. And it's hard to know what to do to change that. When I watched Silicon Valley, I don't know, a few years ago, kind of binged it after it was out. And I think that's actually a pretty important show for people to watch that have anything to do with the internet, just because it really, really shows that profit motivation at work and how it influences these, people in Silicon Valley in the digital world that don't have the same kind of social skills. Like, I think as a species, we are becoming more divided. As our population grows, there tends to be a higher level of specialization, but there's also higher and higher levels of unemployment. Now, unemployment rates have increased as the population has risen. So the rates have increased. So that means that the group of unemployed people increases dramatically as the population increases. And I've seen that happen now in my country very, very straightforwardly. It's very obvious that that's happening. So a lot of people are online. They don't have much else to do. And so a lot of people are trying to make their living online, myself included, and I never intended to be online. I never really wanted to have a podcast. It's just that I wanted to be able to do public speaking. So being online has been kind of well, okay, I guess I'll do it because that's all that's available. But how are you supposed to get ahead in a medium that's constantly changing and also getting worse? So it's really hard to get my voice out there. And I see so many other people in my position too. And I'd love to be able to help them as well. But I know how tough it is. And if you don't know how the algorithms work, how are you supposed to ever get on top of it? There are people that spend all of their time figuring out the algorithms and figuring out how to get your material seen online. So how can you ever compete with that? Because those are also the people that can tweak the programming too. So the algorithms themselves are changing, and now AI has really changed things a lot. I've been kind of shocked at what it's done since it's suddenly been available everywhere. We've watched this sort of algorithm give us a bunch of similar things, one after the other, and now it's giving us the same thing. Like, I've noticed the change on YouTube. Every once in a while, I'll sort of listen to music on there. It used to be they'd sort of show another video by the same artist. Now they show the exact same song, a different version of the same song over and over. So that is a bad sign. I mean, these systems that we're relying on are falling apart in front of us. And the sense of powerlessness, I think, is just kind of overwhelming. The best we can do almost is to just make fun of it and laugh at it, I guess. But it's really, really destroying people's livelihoods. How are you supposed to get that internet connectivity that we all want if the internet is being screwed up so purposefully in order to try to get ahead of you? Because that's really what it's about, is these artificial technologies are being made to predict your behavior. But most of us behave in relatively unpredictable ways, especially if the motivation is just to sell you things. So before Christmas, I was getting bombarded with chocolate ads. And it was just so strange because I don't remember mentioning chocolate. I did want chocolate, so it started to feel like, okay, are we getting to the point now where the internet really is getting psychic? And it really is predicting our behavior. So before you even think that you want something, it's gonna show it to you because it's predicted all these other things about your behavior. But the thing is that it's still so simplistic, and our lives are so much more complicated, and our minds are so much more complicated. So we're being forced to use these assistants, or these machine assistants that are not as smart as a human. They're so unpredictable. And I think the unpredictability of the internet now is really what is the most psychologically draining and just mental exhaustion. I think everyone's getting more and more mentally exhausted, and apathy is going to be the only outcome. Now, apathy is something that can be useful, especially if you're looking at the environment. A lot of people used to say, like, oh, we just need to be more motivated to improve the environment. And it's like, no, our activities are what are destroying the environment. So the less we do, the better we are at being environmental, actually. Having a laid back, easygoing lifestyle is exactly what we need. Now I'm talking about all this internet stuff, and I'm using a program now that's online. and it's definitely using up a lot of energy, and it may freeze occasionally. The fact is that editing a podcast isn't that fun. I have a long history of video editing and sound editing back before the digital era when it was much easier to do. You know, I used to make those mixtapes on cassette tapes and had a fairly simple machine. I mean, maybe a little more advanced than a regular cassette player, where I was able to make these tapes and adjust the sound. We can't even adjust the sound anymore online. I mean, you put a YouTube video on and the sound might be really quiet, and then suddenly the next video comes on and it's really, really loud. You know, how is it that we're relying on these technologies that don't work? You know, how can you possibly be optimistic about humans being able to improve the world with technology when our technology is getting worse? You know, if I do this the regular way, then, you know, it's going to be harder to edit. And I think what's so cool about this program I'm using now is that it has text, video, and a timeline that you can edit with. And that's everything that I've been doing with most of my career, or even pre-career since high school, has been editing sound, video, and text. So I went from speech to text software where I'm speaking to the computer and it's turning it into text, to video editing as I'm talking. And now I can actually edit the text of this video, which will then go directly to editing the video. Very weird, very trippy. It's very powerful technology, and that's great. But at the same time, it is flawed, and there's been tons of errors on here as well. So none of it is perfect. It's like every time you add on a new technology, you will add on the glitches. So as I mentioned before, I was watching Northern Exposure, and one of the characters is looking at the computer and it starts downloading all of this crazy code into this Word document. And I had forgotten that that was even a glitch that used to happen back on those computers back in the 90s. I forgot about all these weird glitches. The glitches we have now, I think, are even weirder and stranger because there's so many people pushing this technology to sort of just mindlessly. They don't seem to have any understanding of what it means to be human. You know, because it's so dehumanizing what we've done to our world using this digital technology. And I realized, you know, because it was, I think in the late 2010s, I remember back then, I even was one of those people that never updated my computer. I get a little thing to update, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, because it just seemed like a scam. You know, and then finally, you know, your computer breaks down and you take it in. Did you updated it? And I said, no, I didn't update it. And, you know, now it's like you can't use anything unless you update it. I realize it's not an option to update. You have to update. They're making it obligatory to update everything, but at the same time, it's not improving anything. So how is it that we've been locked into this system? You know, and it just shows you how unequal the power distribution is. And you have a lot of money people that just want to influence everyone. They want to make money off of something, but they don't have any skills and they don't have any expertise other than that. And they're constantly influencing the other people that are actually doing the work. They're influencing the computer programmers and the tech people. But I think technophilia is really a part of that. You know, the biggest technophile now is probably, well, I think it's all three of the major billionaires that everyone knows about. I'm not going to mention their names, but they're so focused on technology and they're so rich from it. But yet so many of those technologies have been forced on people. Not that they want to buy them, not that they want to rely on them, that they have no choice. So I was pretty shocked when I was seeing the people around me and the people that I know on social media, not strangers, by the way, people I actually know, that I know are real people, that were promoting AI. And I was kind of like, okay, well, what is it about it? And I think when I saw this particular program, I was like, okay, I can see how powerful it is. But at the same time, it's so flawed. I haven't downloaded Chat GPT. I'm someone who has never wanted to rely on the computer ever since the late 90s when it started. I never wanted to be a computer person. But I got into animation, and guess what? It's so many computers. Even if you do most of your work on film, You're still going to be using computers to do testing and so on. And then now, again, I think I took a year off of social media. You lose touch with people and that's it. I was pretty shocked by how much faith a lot of people put into social media. I don't know why, because it just seems like everybody else that doesn't want that is just kind of getting victimized by it, where you just have no choice. That's all that's available. So that's the thing is like, yes, you can say, well, social media is more democratic, everyone can get their 15 minutes of fame, but you can't really. There's so many more people just struggling at the bottom now because everyone's online. Because again, those unemployment rates just skyrocketed and our population is still going up, besides all the hand-wringing and nonsense about birth rates going down. So I feel like this whole digital era is part of the de-evolution of human beings, where we're becoming dumber and dumber. Our technology is getting smarter, but we are getting dumber. And it's pushing us to become dumber because now we're wasting so much time trying to remember passwords, trying to remember, how to post this particular picture using this thing. You've seen someone else do it and you can't figure it out because you don't have the right program and you didn't figure out this special code. It's back to the old days of, Super Mario, and I can't remember, up, down, down, right, left. You got this secret code. It's like, oh, and people would share the secret code. But now it's like for doing almost anything online because they keep changing the code. It's like that safe, you want to get your thing out, but now the safe is not owned by you. Now some collective other company owns it and they changed the code on you. You can't even open your own safe anymore. I'm sure we all have accounts now. I know I had, what was it? It had some weird technology that would log me in, and I never logged into that. It just suddenly I'd be in, and the one day I was out, and I was out forever, and I have no idea what happened to that account. I don't even understand how people think these days. I was hearing someone say, like, oh, that we're going to try to prevent sharing posts on social media, so you have to take a picture of it and then repost it. Why? Why? Like, what did you think? Do you think that's the problem with the internet? Is that posts are too shareable? How have we gotten so dumb? It's just exasperating, and then you make a comment. It's almost like, I'm not a big fan of The Secret. I don't know if you've heard of The Secret. This was big in sort of the new age world, I don't know, about 20 years ago. But there's one thing I really agree with about The Secret, which is that you bring into your life what you focus on. And if you focus on the negative, then you tend to bring that more into your life. And that's hard not to do because there's so much negatives. And it's hard not to think about them, especially if they're bothering you and they're negatively influencing your life. But that's what's happened now with the algorithm, is that if you make any kind of comment online, the algorithm cannot tell whether you are being positive or negative about it. So if you're making comments that are negative about something, it will feed you more of that. So you made a negative comment about something that you disapprove of, you don't want it, and now you're getting advertisements for that same thing that you don't want. Because that's how mindless the system is. It cannot tell what you're really saying. So I was on Twitter X. I hadn't been on there. I was kind of scared of it. Facebook was like going to a party of like a friend of the family and a bunch of people are there. But Twitter was like going into a rave or something, a big party of total strangers, and there's tons of them everywhere and you don't know anyone. So I was intimidated by Twitter for a long time. But I was like, well, like everyone else, like I got to get on social media and use it more, even though I'm not very good at it. So I'm on Twitter X and I just watched it crumble. It became X shortly after I got on there. So I was kind of able to see one of the unnamed billionaires that I mentioned ruin it. And how has his worth gone up? But this is someone that most people don't like. Like he got booed off stage because they hate him so much. And his worth went up, even as everybody is leaving his company and they're leaving X. It became so bad there that, it wasn't just the negativity from people, but it's like you're watching these apps glitch out and fall apart in front of us. How can you be optimistic when you're watching these things become non-functional? Like they're being run by kindergartners that don't know what they're doing. And I think I'm just going to be another video now that we're all watching, kind of laughing at, going like, yeah, everyone's freaking out about this. I just watched a video of someone freaking out about having to log in all the time. Who knew that we would spend our future just logging in all day long? If things keep going the way they're going now, we are going to spend every single day trying to figure out technology that doesn't work. Every day, all day, unless we're just engaging with nature and reality offline. And I think offline is the future. I remember having dreams back in, I think it was like the early 2000s, about the police and army just coming in and trashing computers and just getting rid of them all, and the grid getting locked down and all of the lights going out. I think that's the future. I don't see this technology, I don't see AI as the future at all. I think that it's bringing us an apocalyptic dystopia where our brains are so full of totally useless knowledge, and we're being told now you can't be competitive unless you're posting everything on LinkedIn. Like, that's another one, LinkedIn. Like, apparently now to get a job, you have to be on there. If you want to get a job in this world, you have to be on certain social media. That's what they will look at, even more than they're looking at your CV. I don't know what to make of it all. I really, really don't. Everything we do online takes energy. And that's the other biggest problem with the digital era. You know, back in the 90s, it was like paper is bad. If you're using too much paper, you're cutting down all of the forests. Paper is bad, 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 bad. And so since then, they've gotten rid of more and more and more and more paper. And sometimes that's great, especially if you have like a big bill that you get in the mail every month. You don't really need that. But newspapers, TV guides, like the Arts and Entertainment Weekly, those things are so important. And I just feel like I've been suffering without that because it's so hard to find those things online. You know, it used to be that you have the paper, it shows you all of the establishments in your city and what's going on there. Now you're expected to follow each and every one of those establishments that you want to know about on social media. And that's why I still have my Twitter X up, because there are things that I follow in there. Like the city that I live in, you know, and they do post important things on there sometimes. But I'm hardly on there anymore. Like, I want tangible media back so bad. I don't know how to make it happen. And I know there are a lot of other people that are feeling the way that I am, that want to go back to the 80s and 90s, you know, and I never thought of those times as great because we were suffering from too much technology then as well. But the fact is that tangibility is so important. To be able to put something down on a table, leave the room, come back, and it's still on the table. But that doesn't happen with digital technology. Now you put something on the table on your screen, you leave the room, it refreshes, it's gone. It's gone. How many of us have had that experience of filling out a form online and you do one little click wrong or one little glitch in the internet and it's gone? Can you imagine if the tangible world worked the way the digital world did? Or you would come home and your house would be gone. It would just disappear. Just be gone. Oh, they went out of business. It's like, but I thought it was my house. No, 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 no. All the houses are owned by this new company now, and they got bought up by another company and another company and another company. So you have this monopolization system, the profit motivation, a total mismatch between the people in government and the people that are doing the code. Just pure overwhelming greed. I mean, that's got to be the biggest problem of all, because everything is about selling us these stupid ads that nobody wants to see. And you know what's the saddest thing about all those ads that are just targeting us over and over and over with the same thing is the ads that you're not seeing. That's what I'm so worried about, is what am I not seeing? Already the government in Canada is preventing us from sharing news stories. Like, this is censorship. We live in an increasing censorship in a system that's already narrowing and narrowing and narrowing down what we get to see. There are people out there I know that want to listen to my podcast that I'm not reaching, and the internet is not helping me reach them. It may have been like 20 years ago, maybe when it was working better then, But now we've added 2 billion people to the planet. So I'm not seeing this tech utopia. I'm not seeing it. I'm seeing tech dystopia. The simplest things that you can do are not even working anymore. How are we going to change this? How are we going to change it? You know, I'm doing online courses too, and the same thing happens, right? The tech fell apart. The website crashed, canceled till next week, you know? And then half the people can't show up because they don't know how to find the link to get to the right space. It's sad. So this was kind of an unintentional subject, but I just wanted to just dump on it because, my gosh, just over the last few days, getting these super weird notifications online for things that don't make any sense at all. So, I mean, yeah, sure, AI is a powerful tool, but you don't need power tools everywhere. You don't need power tools in every room of your house. AI is just everywhere and it's in places where it's not needed. So how do we get back? I mean, my solution to everything is just stop having kids. If we can see obviously that the internet is not improving, even though more and more people are on it, even though there's more and more programs, even there's more and more going on. But I have to get somewhere first. So there we are. It's the end of the year. We're about to be in the new year, and I wanted to do something that's a little bit like taking stock of everything. I just wanted to get it off my chest because I'm just in shock. And I think a lot of people are in shock right now at how bad things are getting online. And what really baffles me is people that trust the news online. Oh my goodness. You know, even when they started using the term fake news, I thought, it's all fake news. It's always been fake news. Some of it's true, some of it's not true. And guess what? You will never get to know what is true and not true. Nobody gets to know. That's why your religion is wrong. That's why your ideologies are wrong. Because you are a simple little human in a very big world and you don't get to know everything. The internet has taught us that collectively we are dumber. And we're getting dumber. De-evolution, people, it's happening. Just because our machines are getting better doesn't mean that we humans are. We are different than the technology that is using us. The technology is using us. Why? I don't know. I think there's some non-life forces out there that doesn't like us life forms. They don't like DNA. Well, I don't know why. We're not that bad. We're pretty interesting, I'd say. We're a lot more advanced than just non-life, but that's how it is. Let's get our shit together. Let's try to bring back tangible media. We can make it out of all kinds of different materials, recycled stuff. We don't have to chop down all the forests in order to have tangible media back. You know, but I think we really need it because I'm so tired of having to redo everything because digital doesn't work right. We have to know how to fit digital tools into our lives in a way that is functional. If you're one of those people at the top that's playing games with us, us powerless people at the bottom, we don't need any more change online. We need to better understand the tools that we already have and get better at them. But if you keep destroying those tools, we'll never be able to learn anything. We are being bombarded by useless information about tools that we can't even use that won't exist in 5 years. In order to build a foundation of society, we need to put life first, not just people, but life. All of the life forms that we rely on. Otherwise, what's the point? We are going to be a dead planet, just like Mars or Venus or all the other planets in the universe that we know of that don't have life on them. That's where we're headed. Watching this thing just suck up energy now. Well, I want to leave on something positive. So if we look at what the positives are of the internet, it's connectivity to connect with each other. So things like Zoom, part of the social media where you can actually reach out to the people that you know. I think that's really the positives. I think also being able to connect with people of like mind. And I hope I can connect more with people of like mind because I know there's more people out there that are on my wavelength. And so if you liked anything that I've said, please check out my other podcasts. I guess like and subscribe. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how it all works. I think that they should know that, but do it because the system is monetized in such a way that you can't make any money until you get a whole bunch of likes and subscribes and so on. So please, that's why. Please do it. Thank you. And I'll be seeing you in the new year. Hope you have a wonderful new year. Hope that you feel renewed from this solstice time, the time of darkness. This has been Kim Anderson on the Never Ending Experiment. Happy New Year for 2025.